The scream tore through the quiet of the Carson family's suburban home, sharp enough to shatter glass. Emily Carson, 16, froze mid-step on the staircase, her heart slamming against her ribs as her younger brother, Jamie, stumbled out of the living room, his face pale, eyes wide with terror. Their father's voice roared after him, a venomous slur cutting deeper than any blade. "You're no son of mine." Emily's world tilted. She'd always known Jamie was different, gentle, introspective, with a quiet love for painting and poetry that their father, a stoic mechanic, mocked as weak. But this was a secret Jamie had whispered to her alone, late at night in their shared attic room, his voice trembling. "I think I like boys, Em." She'd hugged him then, fierce and protective, promising to stand by him no matter what. Now, as their father's rage filled the house, that promise felt like a lifeline. She bolted down the stairs, shoving past her father, whose face was a mask of disgust. "Leave him alone," she shouted, her voice cracking but unyielding. Jamie was already out the front door, his sneakers pounding against the pavement. Emily followed, her breath hitching as she caught up to him in the alley behind their house. He was curled against a brick wall, sobbing, his skinny frame shaking. "I didn't mean for him to find out," he choked out. "He saw my texts to Ryan." Ryan. The name hit Emily like a punch. Jamie's best friend, the boy he'd been inseparable from all summer. She'd seen the way Jamie's eyes lit up around him, the way his laugh softened. She knelt beside him, gripping his shoulders. "You're not alone. Okay. I've got you." But their father wasn't the only storm brewing. Carsonville, Ohio, was a small town, its heart rooted in tradition and suspicion. By Monday, whispers had spread through Carson High. Jamie's locker was vandalized, slurs scrawled in red marker. Emily, a junior with a reputation for fearlessness, stood guard outside his classes, glaring down anyone who dared stare. She took punches for him literally, when a senior cornered Jamie in the locker room and Emily swung first, her knuckles bruising but her resolve ironclad. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me," Jamie said one night, his voice small as they sat on the attic floor, a single lamp casting shadows. Emily shook her head. "You're my brother. We fight together." She meant it. She'd always been his shield, his defender, the one who stood between him and a world that didn't understand. Their mother, quieter but no less rigid, tried to keep the peace, urging Jamie to fix himself, to attend church and pray it away. Emily scoffed at the idea, her anger a live wire. "He's not broken," she snapped during one tense dinner, her fork clattering against her plate. But the pressure was relentless. Jamie withdrew, his paintings growing darker, his smiles rarer. Emily felt the weight of it, the way their family was fracturing, but she held fast to her promise. One night, she overheard their parents arguing. "He's tearing this family apart," their father said. "If he chooses this, he's out." Emily's stomach churned. She crept into Jamie's room, finding him awake, staring at the ceiling. "If it gets bad," she whispered, "we'll leave. Together." Jamie nodded, but his eyes were hollow. Months passed, and the tension simmered. Jamie turned 17. His senior year, a gauntlet of whispered insults and cold shoulders. Emily, now a senior herself, doubled down, organizing a small LGBTQ+ support group at school. Despite the principal's warnings, she didn't care about the consequences, she cared about Jamie. But then came the night that changed everything. Jamie came home late. His lip split. Blood on his shirt. Ryan's parents found out. He said, voice barely audible, "They're sending him away." Emily's heart sank. Ryan was Jamie's anchor, his first love. She held him as he cried, her own tears silent. She didn't know how to fix this, but she swore she'd try. The next morning, their father issued an ultimatum. Jamie could choose to be normal, or he could leave. Emily waited for Jamie to fight, to stand up, but he just looked at her. Broken. "I can't stay. Em," he said. "I'm sorry." He packed a bag and left before dawn, leaving a note. "I love you. I'll be okay." Emily stood in the driveway, staring at the empty street. Her promise shattered. She'd protected him, fought for him, but she couldn't stop him from running. The years after Jamie left were a slow bleed. Emily, now 18, threw herself into college applications, her anger fueling her ambition. She'd promised to protect Jamie, but he was getting no calls, no texts, just silence. The absence gnawed at her, a wound she couldn't close. She'd check his old social media, hoping for a sign, but his accounts went dark. Carsonville felt smaller without him, its streets heavy with memories of their childhood, racing bikes down Maple Street, sneaking ice cream from the corner store. Now, those memories stung. At Ohio State, Emily studied social work, driven by a need to fix what she couldn't for Jamie. She joined campus pride groups, marched in rallies, her voice loud but her heart heavy. She blamed herself. Had she fought hard enough? Should she have gone with him? The questions looped endlessly, unanswered. Her parents never mentioned Jamie, their silence a wall she couldn't breach. When she asked, her mother's eyes would glaze over. Her father's jaw would tighten. He made his choice, was all he'd say. By 22, Emily had built a life in Columbus. She worked at a youth shelter, counseling kids who reminded her too much of Jamie, scared, defiant, searching for a place to belong. She dated sporadically, but no one stuck. Trust was hard when your own family could turn on you. She kept a photo of her and Jamie, taken at a county fair when he was 14, his grin wide and unguarded. It sat on her nightstand, a reminder of what she'd lost. One night, a coworker dragged her to a gay bar downtown, insisting she needed to live a little. The music pulsed, lights flashing, and Emily felt out of place until a woman approached her, Lila, with warm brown eyes and a laugh that cut through the noise. They talked for hours, and for the first time in years, Emily felt something loosen inside her. Lila was a graphic designer, fiercely independent, with a past that mirrored Emily's family rejection, a sibling she'd lost touch with. They started dating, and Emily let herself hope. But the past wasn't done with her. At 25, Emily got pregnant. Lila was ecstatic. painting their apartment's spare room in soft blues and yellows. They named their daughter Sophie, born with Jamie's hazel eyes. A twist of fate that made Emily's chest ache. Raising Sophie became her purpose. But every milestone Sophie's first steps. Her first words brought a pang of guilt. Jamie should be here, she thought. He'd love her. Sophie grew into a curious, whip-smart kid, asking questions that cut too close. Why don't I have an uncle? She asked at 6. Her brow furrowed. Emily froze. Her rehearsed answers just far away, feeling like a betrayal. She didn't know where Jamie was. She'd searched online, called old friends, even hired a private investigator once. But the trail was cold. He'd vanished. And with him, a piece of her. Lila noticed the weight Emily carried. You can't keep punishing yourself, she said one night, her hand on Emily's. You were a kid, too. But Emily couldn't let go. She'd been Jamie's protector, his safe harbor, and she'd failed. The guilt was a shadow, always there. At 30, Emily's life looked stable on the outside, a steady job, a loving partner, a bright daughter. But inside, she was haunted. She'd stopped fighting with her parents, their visits polite but distant. They adored Sophie but never spoke of Jamie, as if he'd never existed. Emily wanted to scream at them, to demand answers, but she didn't. She'd learned to bury her rage, to keep the peace for Sophie's sake. Then came the letter. It arrived on a rainy Tuesday, tucked in with bills and junk mail. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the return address was San Francisco. Emily's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single page, the words blurring as she read, "M. It's me. I'm sorry I disappeared. I'm okay, but I need to see you." Her knees buckled. Jamie. Alive. After 13 years. He'd reached out. The letter gave an address, a phone number, and a plea. Please don't hate me. Emily clutched the paper, tears falling. She didn't hate him, she never could. But the years of silence, the pain of his absence, roared back. Why now? What had happened? And how could she face him after all this time? Emily stared at the letter for days. Its words burned into her mind. She hadn't called the number yet, too afraid of what she'd hear or what she wouldn't. Jamie's handwriting, once so familiar, now felt like a stranger's. She kept the letter hidden in her desk, rereading it when Sophie was asleep and Lila was at work. Each time, her heart battled itself, relief that he was alive, anger that he'd left her, fear of what seeing him might unearth. She told Lila that night, her voice low over a glass of wine. He's in San Francisco, she said, the words foreign on her tongue. Lila's eyes softened. You have to go? Em. You'll never forgive yourself if you don't. Emily nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. What if Jamie wasn't the brother she remembered? What if he blamed her for not doing more? Sophie overheard, as kids do. Is Uncle Jamie coming? She asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. Emily's throat tightened. She hadn't told Sophie much, only that her uncle was far away. Now, she knelt beside her daughter, brushing a curl from her face. Maybe. She said, I need to find him first. Sophie's smile was pure, unburdened by the past. I want to meet him. Emily booked a flight to San Francisco. Her first time leaving Sophie for more than a weekend. Lila promised to handle things. But Emily's nerves buzzed as she boarded the plane. The city greeted her with fog and a chill that seeped into her bones. Jamie's address led to a small apartment in the Castro. Rainbow flags lining the streets. She stood outside his building, heart pounding, before buzzing the intercom. The door opened, and there he was. Jamie, 30 now, taller but still wiry. His hair longer, a faint scar above his eyebrow. His eyes, those same hazel eyes, met hers. And for a moment, they were kids again, hiding in the attic from their father's temper. He whispered, and she broke, pulling him into a hug that felt like coming home. They sat in his cramped living room. Photos of strangers on the walls. A canvas half-painted in the corner. Jamie spoke first, his voice steady but heavy. I didn't think you'd come. Emily wanted to scream, why didn't you call? But she held back, letting him talk. He told her about the years since he left, hitchhiking to California, scraping by in shelters, finding a community that accepted him. He'd built a life, working as an art teacher, but the guilt of leaving her had never faded. Why didn't you reach out? Emily finally asked, her voice cracking. Jamie looked away, his hands twisting. I thought you'd be better off without me. Dad said I'd ruin your life, too. The words hit like a slap. Their father's cruelty had driven Jamie away. But Emily felt the sting of her own failure. She should have looked harder, fought more. They talked for hours, piecing together the years apart. Jamie had found love, lost it, found it Aga in a partner named Alex, who was away on a work trip. He showed her a photo, a man with kind eyes, holding Jamie's hand at a pride parade. Emily smiled, but her chest ached. She'd missed so much. She told him about Sophie, about Lila, about the life she'd built. Jamie's eyes lit up at Sophie's name. I want to meet her, he said, echoing Sophie's words. Emily hesitated. She wanted that, too. But trust was fragile. Could she let him back in after so long? The weekend passed in a blur of coffee shops and walks through Golden Gate Park. Jamie was different, stronger, but haunted. He spoke of therapy, of healing, but also of the scars Carsonville had left. Emily shared her guilt, her anger, the way their parents' rejection had shaped her. By the time she boarded her flight home, she felt lighter but unresolved. Jamie promised to visit, but promises had broken before. Back in Columbus, Sophie bombarded her with questions. Did you find him? Is he nice? Emily laughed, pulling her daughter close. He's the best, she said, and meant it. But as she tucked Sophie in, doubt crept back. Could they rebuild what was lost? And what would happen when Sophie learned the full truth, not just about Jamie, but about the family that had pushed him away? Emily couldn't shake the feeling that Jamie's return was a fragile thread, one tug away from snapping. She'd invited him to Columbus for Sophie's 8th birthday, a test of sorts. He'd agreed, his voice eager over the phone. But Emily's stomach churned with what-ifs. What if he didn't show? What if Sophie got too attached, only for him to disappear again? Lila, ever steady, squeezed her hand. Give him a chance. He's trying. The day Jamie arrived, Emily paced their apartment, checking her phone for flight updates. Sophie, oblivious to the stakes, bounced around, a handmade card for Uncle Jamie clutched in her hands. When the doorbell rang, Emily's breath caught. There he was, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, a nervous smile on his face. Sophie launched herself at him, and Jamie knelt, laughing as she hugged him. You're real, Sophie said, and Emily's eyes stung. The birthday was a whirlwind cake. Balloons. Sophie's friends running wild in the backyard. Jamie fit in effortlessly, teaching the kids to draw cartoon animals. His old charm resurfacing. Emily watched, torn between joy and fear. He was good with Sophie, patient and warm, but the years of silence loomed large. At night, after Sophie was in bed, Emily and Jamie sat on the porch, the air thick with summer heat. I'm sorry I left you, Jamie said, unprompted. I thought I was protecting you. Emily's throat tightened. I needed you, she admitted. I felt like I failed you. Jamie shook his head, his eyes glassy. You were the only one who didn't. They sat in silence, the weight of their shared past settling between them. Jamie stayed for a week, folding into their routine. He helped Sophie with her art projects, shared stories of San Francisco, and bonded with Lila over bad sci-fi movies. Emily saw glimpses of the brother she'd lost his laugh, his quiet thoughtfulness, but he was different, too. He carried a guardedness, a caution she didn't recognize. One evening, Sophie asked Jamie why he'd been gone so long. The question hung in the air, and Emily tensed, ready to intervene. Jamie hesitated, then spoke carefully. Sometimes, people don't understand who you are, and it makes things hard. I had to find a place where I could be me. Sophie nodded, not fully grasping but accepting. Emily's heart ached. She wanted to shield Sophie from the uglier details, but she knew the truth would surface eventually. Jamie's visit ended too soon. At the airport, he hugged Emily tightly. I'm not going anywhere this time, he said. She wanted to believe him, but trust was a slow rebuild. As his plane took off, she felt a mix of hope and dread. She'd let him back in, but at what cost? Back home, Sophie's questions grew sharper. Why didn't Grandma and Grandpa want Uncle Jamie? She asked one night, her voice small. Emily froze. She'd never told Sophie about their parents' rejection, the slurs, the ultimatum. They just didn't understand him, she said, hating how weak it sounded. Sophie's eyes narrowed. That's not fair. Emily knew she couldn't keep the truth from Sophie forever. She started small, sharing stories of Jamie's courage, his art, the way he'd made her laugh. But the darker parts, their father's rage, their mother's silence, stayed locked away. She wasn't ready for Sophie to see that side of her family. Not yet. Meanwhile, Jamie kept in touch, calling weekly, sending Sophie sketches in the mail. Emily felt the thread between them strengthen. But doubts lingered. She'd protected Jamie once, only to lose him. Could she protect Sophie from the pain of their family's past? Or was the truth inevitable, waiting to break free? As summer faded, Emily got a call from her mother. "Your father's sick," she said. Her voice clipped. "Lung cancer. He wants to see you." Emily's stomach dropped. She hadn't spoken to her father in years. Not since a fight about Jamie. The idea of facing him now, with Jamie back in her life, felt like walking into a storm. But Sophie deserved to know her grandfather, didn't she? And what about Jamie? Did he deserve a chance to confront the man who'd driven him away? Emily hung up, her mind racing. The past was closing in, and she couldn't outrun it anymore. Emily stood outside her childhood home in Carsonville, the air heavy with the scent of rain-soaked grass. The house looked smaller, its paint peeling, the porch sagging under years of neglect. Sophie, now 8.5, clung to her hand, sensing the tension. Jamie was on his way, too, driving from the airport. Emily hadn't told their parents he was coming. She wasn't sure she could handle their reaction. Her father's diagnosis had forced this visit, but the thought of facing him churned her stomach. Inside, her mother greeted them with a strained smile. "Sophie, you've grown," she said, avoiding Emily's eyes. Her father was in the living room, thinner than she remembered, an oxygen tank at his side. His gaze flickered to Sophie, softening, then to Emily, guarded. "Didn't think you'd come," he rasped. Emily forced a nod, her throat tight. She hadn't come for him, she'd come for Sophie, and maybe for herself. Sophie, oblivious to the undercurrents, chatted about school, her drawings, Uncle Jamie. Her grandparents stiffened at his name, and Emily's pulse spiked. She hadn't told Sophie the full story, but kids pick up on things. "Is Uncle Jamie coming?" Sophie asked, and Emily's mother shot her a look. "He's busy," her mother said, but Sophie wasn't fooled. "He's on his way," Emily said firmly, daring her parents to argue. Jamie arrived an hour later, his knock tentative. Emily opened the door, and the sight of him older, but still her brother steadied her. He hugged Sophie first, then Emily, his grip tight. "You sure about this?" he whispered. She wasn't, but she nodded. They stepped into the living room, and the air turned to glass. Her father's face hardened, his hands clenching. "You," he said, voice low. Jamie stood tall, but Emily saw the tremor in his jaw. "I'm here for Em and Sophie," Jamie said. "Not you." Her mother fidgeted, eyes darting between them. Sophie, confused, tugged at Emily's sleeve. "Why's Grandpa mad?" Emily knelt, forcing a smile. "It's grown-up stuff. Sweetie, why don't you show Grandma your drawings?" Her mother led Sophie to the kitchen, leaving Emily, Jamie, and their father in a suffocating silence. "You shouldn't be here," her father said finally. "You made that clear years ago," Jamie shot back, his voice steady but raw. The argument erupted, years of pain spilling out. Jamie recounted the night he left, the slurs, The ultimatum. Emily listened, her own anger rising. You pushed him out, she said, her voice shaking. You broke our family. Her father's eyes flashed, but his cough cut him off, a reminder of his fragility. For a moment, Emily saw not the tyrant of her childhood, but a dying man, stubborn and broken. Jamie softened, surprising her. I didn't come to fight, he said. I came to see my sister and my niece. You don't get to take that from me anymore. He turned to Emily, his eyes pleading. Let's go. She hesitated, glancing at her father. She wanted him to apologize, to show remorse, but his silence was answer enough. They left, Sophie clutching Jamie's hand as they walked to the car. Why doesn't Grandpa like you? She asked, her voice small. Jamie knelt, his smile sad. Sometimes people don't understand, but that's their problem, not mine. Emily watched, her heart heavy. She'd wanted closure, but all she felt was the same old ache. Back in Columbus, Sophie's questions didn't stop. Why didn't you tell me Grandpa was mean to Uncle Jamie? She asked one night, her eyes accusing. Emily sighed, sitting her down. I wanted to protect you, she said. But you're right, you deserve the truth. She told Sophie about Jamie's coming out, the rejection, the way she'd fought for him. Sophie listened, her small face serious. That's not fair, she said. Uncle Jamie's awesome. Emily smiled, but the truth was unraveling faster than she could control. Sophie was old enough to see the cracks in their family, and Emily couldn't shield her anymore. She called Jamie that night, her voice urgent. She's asking about everything. What do I do? Jamie was quiet, then said, Tell her the truth. She's stronger than you think. Emily sat Sophie down on a quiet Saturday, the living room bathed in morning light. At 8, Sophie was perceptive, her questions sharper than Emily was ready for. I want to know everything about Uncle Jamie, Sophie said, her hazel eyes like Jamie's sun yielding. Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling. The truth had been a weight she'd carried alone for too long. But now it was time to share it. Carefully, with her daughter. She started with the good parts, Jamie's laughter, his paintings, the way he'd braid her hair when they were kids. Then came the harder truth, show their father had rejected him for being gay, how their mother had stayed silent, how Emily had fought but couldn't stop Jamie from leaving. Sophie listened, her small hands clenched. Why didn't they love him? She asked, voice breaking. Emily pulled her close. They didn't understand him. But I did. And you do, too. Sophie nodded, but her questions kept coming. Did you stop loving him when he left? Emily's chest tightened. Never, she said. I was angry, but I never stopped. Sophie hugged her, and Emily felt the weight of her promise to Jamie shift. She wasn't just protecting him anymore. She was protecting Sophie's right to know him, to love him. Jamie visited again, this time with Alex, his partner. They arrived with paintbrushes and a canvas, turning the backyard into an art studio. Sophie was smitten, trailing Alex as he sketched flowers, asking Jamie about San Francisco. Emily watched, her heart full but wary. Jamie was building a bond with Sophie, but the past still lingered. Could she trust this to last? One evening, as they grilled burgers, Alex pulled Emily aside. "He talks about you all the time," he said, his voice kind. "He regrets leaving you most of all." Emily nodded, her throat tight. She wanted to believe Jamie was here to stay, but the fear of losing him again was a quiet ache. Sophie's school project on family history brought everything to a head. She wanted to include Jamie, but Emily hesitated, knowing their parents would see it. "Why can't I tell everyone about him?" Sophie asked, frustrated. Emily sighed. "Some people won't understand." Soft. Like Grandpa. Sophie's eyes flashed. "Then they're wrong." Emily realized Sophie was right. She'd spent years shielding her daughter from the truth, but Sophie's clarity cut through her fear. She helped Sophie write about Jamie's art, his courage, his place in their family. When Sophie presented it at school, Emily sat in the back, tears in her eyes as her daughter spoke with pride. But the project reached Carsonville. Emily's mother called, her voice tight. "Sophie's telling people things she shouldn't." Emily's temper flared. "She's telling the truth. You don't get to erase Jamie." Her mother went silent, then hung up. Emily knew the bridge with her parents was burning, but she felt free. Jamie called that night, ecstatic. "Sophie sent me her project," he said, voice thick. "She called me her hero." Emily laughed, tears falling. "You are." They talked for hours, planning a trip for Sophie to visit San Francisco. Emily felt the thread between them strengthen, but the shadow of their father's illness loomed. A week later, her mother called again. "Your father wants to see Jamie," she said. Emily's heart stopped. Was this a chance for redemption, or another wound? She told Jamie, expecting him to refuse. But he surprised her. "I'll go," he said. "Not for him, for me." Emily admired his courage, but fear gnawed at her. What if this broke him again? As Jamie prepared to face their father, Emily grappled with her own role. She'd protected Jamie once, then lost him. Now, she was letting him walk into the lion's den. But maybe this was what healing looked like, not shielding, but standing beside. She booked a flight to join him, determined to face their past together. The drive to Carsonville felt like a march to war. Emily sat beside Jamie in the rental car, Sophie in the back, singing to her headphones. Jamie's hands gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. "You don't have to do this," Emily said, her voice low. Jamie glanced at her, his smile faint. "I know, but I need to." She nodded, her heart heavy. She'd spent years hating their father for what he'd done to Jamie. But now, with his death looming, she felt a tangle of grief and anger she couldn't unravel. They arrived at the house at dusk, the familiar porch light casting long shadows. Sophie, sensing the mood, stayed quiet, clutching Jamie's hand as they entered. Their mother greeted them, her eyes red-rimmed, and led them to the living room. Their father lay in a hospital bed, frail, his breathing labored. Emily barely recognized him. The man who'd once loomed so large now seemed small, breakable. Jamie stood at the foot of the bed, his face unreadable. "You wanted to see me," he said, voice steady. Their father's eyes opened, clouded but sharp. "Jamie," he rasped, then coughed, wincing. Emily tensed, ready to pull Jamie out if this went south. Sophie stood close, her small hand in Emily's, watching. "I was wrong," their father said, each word a struggle. "What I did to you. I'm sorry." The words hung in the air, heavy and late. Emily's breath caught. Waited years for this, but it didn't feel like victory. Jamie's jaw tightened, his eyes glistening. "You don't get to erase it with an apology," he said. "But I'm glad you said it." Their father nodded, exhausted, and closed his eyes. Emily saw the pain in Jamie's face, the years of rejection warring with this fragile moment. She squeezed his shoulder, anchoring him. Sophie, confused but intuitive, tugged at Jamie's sleeve. "Are you okay, Uncle Jamie?" He knelt, smiling through tears. "Yeah, kiddo. I'm okay." They stayed for an hour, the room quiet except for the hum of the oxygen tank. Their mother tried to bridge the gap, offering coffee, small talk, but the weight of the past was too heavy. As they left, Jamie paused at the door, looking back at their father. "I forgive you," he whispered, so soft Emily barely heard. She didn't know if he meant it, but the words were for him, not their father. In the car, Sophie broke the silence. "Grandpa was mean, but he's sad now, right?" Emily exchanged a look with Jamie, unsure how to answer. "He's trying to make things right," Jamie said finally. Sophie nodded, satisfied for now. Emily marveled at her daughter's ability to see the good, even in a mess like this. Back in Columbus, life settled into a new rhythm. Jamie visited more often, sometimes with Alex, and Sophie soaked up their time together. Emily watched them paint, laugh, argue over pizza toppings, and felt a peace she hadn't known in years. But the truth was still unfolding. Sophie's school project had spread through Carsonville, and old neighbors started calling, some supportive, others cruel. Emily shielded Sophie as best she could, but the whispers reached her. One night, Sophie came to Emily, eyes red. "Kids at school said Uncle Jamie's wrong for being who he is." Emily's heart sank. She sat Sophie down, Lila joining them. "People said that about me and Lila, too," Emily said. "But love isn't wrong. It's just love." Sophie hugged her, then Lila, and Emily felt the strength of their little family. Jamie called the next day, his voice urgent. "I want to do something for Sophie," he said. "A mural. For her school. Something about acceptance." Emily loved the idea, but worried about the backlash. Carsonville wasn't San Francisco. Still, she agreed, knowing it was time to stop hiding. As Jamie planned the mural, Emily prepared for the fight she knew was coming. The truth was out, and there was no going back. The mural took shape on the side of Sophie's elementary school, A burst of color against the faded brick. Jamie worked for weeks, painting figures holding hands different ages, races, identities under a sky of vibrant blues and yellows. Sophie helped, her small hands smudged with paint, her laughter echoing. Emily watched, pride battling fear. Carsonville wasn't ready for this, but Jamie was, and so was Sophie. The town's reaction was swift. Some parents praised the mural. Others demanded it be painted over, calling it propaganda. At a school board meeting, Emily stood beside Jamie, her voice steady as she defended her brother's art. "This is about love, not division," she said. Sophie, sitting in the front row, clapped loudly, and Emily's heart swelled. The board voted to keep the mural, a small victory, but the whispers didn't stop. Sophie faced her own battles. A classmate taunted her, saying her uncle was weird. Sophie, fierce like her mother, shot back, "He's my hero." When Emily heard, she pulled Sophie close, whispering, "You're mine." She realized Sophie was learning what she and Jamie had fought for, the right to be yourself, no matter the cost. Their father passed a month later. The funeral was quiet, Carsonville's church half empty. Emily and Jamie sat together, Sophie between them, holding their hands. Their mother wept silently, her regret a weight Emily could feel. After, Jamie scattered wildflower seeds in the backyard, a silent tribute to the man who'd hurt him but tried, too late, to make amends. Emily and Jamie grew closer, their bond no longer fragile. He moved to Columbus part-time, renting a studio nearby, teaching art to kids like Sophie. Alex joined him, and their little family expanded, messy and real. Emily saw Jamie's scars fade, his laughter freer. She felt her own guilt lift, replaced by gratitude for the brother she'd found again. One spring day, Sophie, now 9, asked to visit San Francisco. Emily, Jamie, Lila, and Alex took her, walking through the Castro, where rainbow flags flew proud. Sophie marveled at the murals, the people, the freedom. At a pride festival, Jamie lifted her onto his shoulders, and Emily snapped a photo, Sophie laughing, Jamie beaming, the world bright around them. Back home, Sophie added the photo to her school project, now a scrapbook of their family story. She wrote, "Uncle Jamie taught me love is stronger than hate." Emily read it and cried, not from pain, but from hope. She'd protected Jamie once, then lost him. Now, they'd built something new, not perfect, but true. The mural became a landmark, a quiet rebellion in Carsonville's heart. Kids took selfies in front of it. Parents softened. And slowly, the town began to change. Emily knew it wasn't the end of the fight. Hate lingered, as it always would, but she saw the ripples of Jamie's courage, Sophie's defiance, her own refusal to stay silent. Years later, at Sophie's high school graduation, Jamie gave a speech as a guest artist. He spoke of resilience, of family, of the sister who'd fought for him when he couldn't fight for himself. Emily sat in the audience, tears streaming, Sophie's hand in hers. Lila leaned over, whispering, "You did good." The truth had set them free, not just Jamie's truth. but the truth of their love, their pain, their healing. Emily looked at her brother, her daughter, her partner, and knew they'd weathered the storm together. The world wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and they'd keep fighting for it. One mural, one hug, one truth at a time.